All right, welcome back. It is the week before Thanksgiving. The date really doesn't matter, I don't think, but we're back. And today it's just me again. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to bring some more people on to talk about different things within the agency or kind of what we're seeing within the creative industry overall. But I wanted to talk about something that I've done over the last several months, in part because of COVID. So I'm a part of a mastermind group called War Room. And it was presented, probably this time last year, how emails are still important, even weekly newsletters, whether it's to customers, potential customers, or employees. And so we heard some good results, statistic-wise, of why that's important. And I kind of didn't blow it off, but I'm not a writer, I'm a creative. And so that's not really something I wanted to devote my time to or had the time to really do it anyway. And so I never seen myself as a writer specifically. Sometimes I can struggle with words. I can speak just fine or wing it with the best of them. But actually writing it down, I remember in college in my junior level English class, or really in the English classes, they say, okay, you've got 2 weeks or 3 weeks to do this paper. And I do the research. I kind of knew what I wanted to write, and I'd sit down at a piece of paper at the computer and I'd start a paragraph and trash the paper, or start the paragraph and then delete it. Over and over, I'd spend an hour on it, and finally I'd get frustrated and say, I'll screw it, I'll do it later. And this would happen, over the course of a week. But then come 3 days out from when it's due, man, it was like everything just flowed. I could just put all my ideas on paper. And then my dad's a writer, so he would edit it and I'd finish it. So maybe that's because I'm crazy and I work better under pressure, or just my brain fires kind of in that instance of, hey, you got to get this done, and may also go back to overthinking it. And a lot of times we do overthink things. So when it came to writing a weekly email, I was like, I don't know about that. Now, keep in mind, for the last 5 years, roughly, me and David would present different things on a weekly basis. And so every Monday is our all staff hands-on deck meeting, and creating a PowerPoint and going through that's pretty straightforward and easy. And you think, writing an email may not be as difficult, but for me, I guess it was a little more daunting. But then COVID hit in March, and we're very big on culture, and with everybody being dispersed in their homes for who knows how long, I was like, well, maybe I'll try this weekly email. And I wrote one, and feedback was pretty good. A week kind of goes by, and I wrote another one. And then it seemed all the employees really liked hearing that on a weekly basis. And so here we are 6-7 months later, and I'm still doing the weekly email newsletters. And so you think, that may not be a big deal, but the thing is what happened because of the weekly newsletter. And also throwing into the fact of the remote aspects of things. How do you maintain culture in the midst of all this? And also, how do you still communicate to your employees in the midst of all this? Because Zoom's maybe fine and all good, but you're limited to time, or you're limited to certain things, and everybody has something to say when you're in a staff meeting. And so before I go into the results, what we ended up doing over the last couple of years with our staff meetings is, instead of me and David presenting week over week, we started having our teams present a certain aspect of their business or what they do on a weekly basis to the rest of the teams. And what happened because of that, it kind of created some cross-training. It also showed other departments what everybody's doing, so you can kind of see, whether they're stressed or whether they're overloaded, how they can support each other in the midst of everything going on. And so it also helped us define our processes, specifically meaning when digital marketing is presenting on SEO and what that looks like. A lot of times there's a process outlined in that, and also documentation that we're able to store on our Google Drive. And so we were killing 2 birds with one stone, and it worked well. So I wasn't presenting as much as I had in the past. So how do I continue to get that voice out, or whatever I need to communicate to the employees, without getting them stuck in another meeting? Because I think we all understand meetings suck and sometimes can just be a time killer. So how can we remedy that, or how can we communicate that message? And that's where this email came in. And so basically what the email started out to be is kind of high level, where we're at as a company, what we're doing, and also some of those things that I want to teach them on a weekly basis. Maybe it's core values. Their core values is very big, highlighting relationships or integrity or family. I mean, all these different things kind of fit together, and how we reinforce those core values even though we're separate in our own houses. And so that's kind of how it started. But then it evolved to where, hey, if I'm sending out a weekly email, why don't I highlight what's happening in the week? Some of the wins, even some of the losses of how we can get better. And so then we started to highlight the companies that we're working on. And so one of the cool ones this past month is Gladney Center for Adoption is one of our clients. And our creative director, Paul, which you saw him a couple weeks ago, they adopted into their family and through Gladney. And they were actually featured in a campaign that we created from concept into the marketing campaign, into print pieces. And it was this one big campaign for National Adoption Month in November. And so it was a real daunting task, but the team, all the teams from web to design to digital marketing all came together to really create this awesome campaign. And so that was highlighted, and Paul got highlighted as well because he's featured with his family, and it really created a cool feedback across the team, like, oh, that's great, everybody watched it, and there was collaboration within each other, kind of encouraging what the teams did. And so that's one example. But what also happened is getting feedback from the employees, not just from my emails, but also giving me ideas of what to share in that week. So I'll get emails of employees wanting to highlight other employees. And if you think about that in a remote working environment, or really any environment, how cool is it for an employee to be featured because of their peers recognized it? And I think that's the greatest thing that has evolved within our own company culture, is this collaboration or this recognition from their peers. And so now that gets added. So we highlight the team or the projects we work on, but also the team members that are working on it, and also how they've succeeded or how they've grown. And so I think that's probably the most beneficial thing out of it all is that feedback. But then another thing kind of happened. As you've heard me say before, I'm writing a book, and I wouldn't have been able to write the amount of words that I've generated so far, and I'm probably 3/4 of the way into writing the book, if I didn't create the repetition of doing this writing on a weekly basis. Because when I first started, I would kind of brain dump, put down whatever I thought on paper, and then I'd give it to actually my wife to read, just to, sometimes I may not have a good sentence structure, or there's not generally a misspelling, but there's just something off or something doesn't make sense, and she'd catch it, and then I'd reread it and rewrite it, and then I also give it to Paul, and just high level, does this make sense? Is this in line? Somewhat for accountability. And so in the beginning there was quite a bit of revisions, but month after month those revisions started to fade away, and even now I'll have them read it and Paul will respond solid. And every now and then they're like, I don't know if that's what you meant on a sentence, and we'll tweak it, but generally there's not really any edits. So why is that? It comes back to practice and repetition. I am not a writer, but the way I communicate and the way I write now is far better than it was when I started. And I think that's an application for anybody, no matter what you do, is the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And this goes into the book of creating all the words, is it kind of validated my whole premise of unlocking creative genius, in the fact that if you want to be more creative in your business or at your work, be a better leader, you have to push yourself to practice new things and to really dig into that creative side. Because as kids, which I've told you before, all we did was imagine different scenarios or things that we could do, or things in the clouds. The more you tap into that, the more that part of the brain moves. And if you struggle with vision, or you don't know what's next in the business, or you're struggling with internal processes or things like that within the business, the more you tap into that part of the brain, that creative side, the more you're going to be able to answer those questions. And I think that's important. And the other thing you can do is, which I started in the beginning, is this all generated from a mastermind group. And if I wasn't in this group, this would have never have started. And so having resources available, or coaches or people that you can bounce ideas off of, is hugely important and vital to the growth of any business. And so I think as a business owner or leader, the more you can do that, the more successful you're going to become. No matter if you're on cloud nine because things are going great, or you're struggling, it doesn't matter, because those are resources that are going to continue to help you evolve and get better at what you do. And so as we kind of keep moving forward as a company and in a business, I'm going to keep doing the emails, and someday I may get to where I want some other people to write it so they can go through the same process that I've been going through. There's all kinds of ideas that will evolve from this, but I'm amazed at myself personally for going through this exercise and becoming better at something I didn't think I was good at. And so take this moment and think about, what are you good at? What do you struggle with? And how can you make it better? Because recognizing our weaknesses are the only way we can make them strengths. And, there's a principle in there that we could go down, but in exercise, if you want to get stronger, you have to lift weights. And if you have a weakness in the gym, you work on that so it can become a strength. And I've always worked out. I've always loved fitness, and I used to think I was fit until I tried CrossFit. And I remember James, our digital marketing director, is like, "Man, you would love this. You should try this." I'm like, it's no big deal. I have lower back issues, and I'm not sure I can do that, or I was scared to hurt something. And then I tried it, and I was hooked. And I thought I was fit. And then you start to track and see what you actually can do. And I can honestly say, because of consistency and working out over the last 7 years doing CrossFit, I'm probably more fit now than I was in college. And that goes back to the practice, determination, exercise, and consistency. And this applies across any medium, whether it's creative, whether it's writing, or business principles. It's just going to grow and grow based on how much time you devote to it. And so how can you make yourself better? That's really the question I want you to leave with today. And do some work. Write it down. Challenge yourself. Say, in 1 month, I want to do this. And so my goal is to finish my book by the end of the month. Originally, it was going to be October, and then some things happened which kind of derailed it. But my goal is to finish the rough copy by the end of the month, so that way I can go through editing in December and hopefully have a draft at the beginning of next year. But if I don't do the work now, then it's not going to get done. And so, anyway, make a plan and go for it.